Hey guys, I'm Aaron Kowaleski. I'm moderating this marketing session. There's a few different marketing sessions throughout this conference. They're going to get more advanced as they go. So for this first one, it's really just how to start marketing if you are just getting going in that. It's maybe for a brand new OBL, or it may be for one that already exists that really isn't doing a whole lot yet. So what we want you to take from this is just a very clear, who are we, what we do kind of message that you can deliver to patients, a simple set of materials that you can create that doesn't get thrown away, digital home base, a referral growth approach without having to spend much money. That'll be the next panel. A repeatable social media rhythm and an intake process that's effective at converting into consults. The way this is structured is sort of, if you think about it like an engine, there's going to be certain pieces to each engine to make something move. So these are the main pieces of the marketing engine with brand basics, materials, website, Google reviews, SEO, referral growth, and then social media, and then what your office does once patients come in with those efforts. So this is, for anyone that's just a brand new OBL owner, an established practice that's trying to scale their service lines, or hospital-affiliated outpatient center, or if you're an administrator or a manager for a practice that's looking to build a repeatable marketing process. These are the speakers. I won't say each name because they will get a chance to tell you themselves. And then I won't be giving a dedicated talk. I'll just be interrupting and asking questions. And that's what I got for you. So first up, Dr. Majors.
Thank you, Aaron. Happy to be here. So the first thing that we want to build with your brand is the foundation. And I'm going to give you 4 steps that you can finish this weekend to be able to do that. And then a little bonus section at the end. So as you can see on the screen right there, you're already seeing some of the branding features that we use. So I'm going to use my practice in order to demonstrate how we utilize these branding features. So these are my disclosures. So does this sound familiar? Your front desk describes your practice in one way, but you have a belief and your staff describe it in a completely different way. Your website says something a little bit different than that, and the referring physicians really have absolutely no idea what we actually do. Google shows a generic listing, just that could be anyone, and so you're busy, but you're probably invisible. And so every marketing dollar is wasted unless you have a cohesive message. And so what are the 4-step brand foundations that you need? The first one is that you want to have a positioning statement. You want to say who you are, what you do, and how you're different. How does that make you stand out from everyone else? The next one is that you want to extract repeatable phrases, 3 to 5 that are associated with your practice. So when people hear this, they see it in digital media, they automatically are relating back to you. And then you want to lock in your visual baseline. You really want that brand, the logo, the colors, even the font, you really want those to stand out. And then the last is you want to run a consistency audit. You really want to take an outside picture, a value of what your brand is doing. So step 1, let's talk about your positioning statement. Most people, if you look at the bottom of the screen, will say, we provide comprehensive vascular care with a patient-centered approach. That is so basic and so generic. So you really want to say, and this is a template up top, and you can do this tonight. You can even do it right now, jot down on the back of a napkin. And so you want your practice name. We provide specific procedures and services for a specific patient in an area who want blank. And so when you really define this down at our facility, it's at Zenith Vascular and Fibroid Center. We provide minimally invasive vascular and fibroid treatments for patients in the Memphis metro area who want outpatient procedures without the hospital experience. big difference than we just provide comprehensive vascular care. So then we talked about your repeatable phrases. So once you have your positioning statement, who you are, what you treat, where you treat, as well as what makes you different, now you want to start getting these 3 to 5 phrases. And all of these phrases, these are just some examples that we utilize, and they're printed in all of our brochures, they're on our website, they're on our social media. These are repeatable phrases, and that's just an example of, you know, the trifold PAD brochure that we have. You're starting to see a pattern. I bet after you guys all leave today, you could easily recognize Zenith and Vascular Fibroid Center. You know what colors we have as well. So at the front desk, I challenge you to all go back to your office and ask your front desk staff, what do we do here? Could you sum it up? And really, it's interesting to hear what they say back. And if they don't have a concise and beautiful answer for you, then my suggestion is to write it down so as soon as they look down, they can see it. And it's a template. And you give them the power, you give them the words. So one of the big things that we talk about is excellence with empathy. We want high standards. We want to provide patient care with empathy. All right, so step 3 is to lock in that visual baseline. You want to have one logo, one version. We have 2 different logos in that sense. We have the Zenith and Vascular Fibroid, and then we have the articulated Z right there that we can put on windows, or we can put on different smaller things, but very noticeable. And as you can see, we're keeping the graphics very similar. You still got this wave that comes through that feels vascular in nature. You want to get your colors. So you really want to know, what is the hex number? Don't just say, oh, we're blue and green. So you want that exact hex number, and you want that repeated throughout your whole entire promotional material, as well as with your brand image. And then you want to pick your font. All of these things are so accessible now. Between AI, between something like Canva, you can really tailor and get your font as well as your brand image down pat, so that it's extremely recognizable for patients. So this is what consistency looks like. So as you can see, our building has the same colors. We have welcome signs, we have the color spec, we have our PAD, we have our anatomy sheets, and then just a little personal touch. You see the guitar down in the bottom. My partner, Dr. Philip Zini, is a big-time guitar lover, like aficionado, and sometimes in clinic we'll hear him playing the guitar, and it's pretty special. Patients love that. But this guitar down at the bottom, don't ask me what kind, but this guitar at the bottom really kind of stimulated the zenith blue that we were trying to capture. So patients know that, it becomes more personable. So use those different personal touches, again, to get your brand to stand out. So the step 4 is you want to run a consistency audit. Does Google business listings match your positioning statement? Does your website homepage say the same thing that your staff says on the phone, like we talked about? Patient brochures, referral materials. And then if a patient Googles you, what are the first 3 results? Do they tell a consistent story? Are they coming to different websites? Are they coming to different colors? All of these things, again, this repeatable pattern of brand helps patients recognize you, referral patterns recognize you, and then you become an expert in the region. So this is just a bonus, and you can screenshot these, but these will also be available afterwards. So when you want to run a consistency audit, this is an AI prompt that you can use. I prefer to use Claude Code. It really can get down into the research. This is a very simple prompt that you can use. Act as a digital marketing consultant. Before you begin, ask me these questions one at a time and wait for my answer. And you're going to fill out every single one of these questions. And what the report that you're going to get back is probably worth $10,000 to $20,000 in the past if you had hired a consultant to do this. And this is extremely surprising what it comes back. It not only analyzes your brand across multiple digital platforms, it looks to see, are you consistent? We did this recently about a couple months ago and found that We didn't even have, we had a weird website or a weird address on one of our websites that we didn't even realize. It also let us know that we were not visible by AI. And so more and more, your brand needs to not only be visible to the human eye, but it needs to be visible to AI. So this was a great prompt that helped us analyze all of our websites, our marketing materials, to make sure that it was also in a format that when people and your customers and your, as well as your patients are looking, they are looking on ChatGPT. Who does fibroids in my area? Who does prostate artery embolization? Who does PAD? And so you need to be available for AI as well to see you. And so kind of summing it up, what are other ways that AI can help you? So again, we talked about you want these consistent personal branding as well as business branding, and you're going to want to get these hex colors. So ask AI, you can use Gemini that has Nano Banana hooked up to it as well to get your color palette. You want to get your logo direction. There is easily so many different websites and things like that that can produce a nice consistent logo for you. Again, you're going to use AI to do a brand audit across all of your digital platforms. And then you can also use AI to write a branding package for you. It will include your hex colors, your fonts, and all of those types of things. So you can stay consistent and make sure you're analyzing back and forth between all of your materials. So everything you hear today with the digital marketing, these referral strategies and patient engagement, they work best when you lay down these foundations. So positioning statement, do that tonight. Make sure you're asking your front desk, what do we do here? That they have a consistent message that you want put out, not just what they say. You want repeatable phrases that really hone in and capture how you are different and what you're trying to accomplish within your practice. You want that visual baseline. And then I highly encourage all of you to do a consistency audit across your digital platform. And you can do it on your personal brand as well as your business brand as well. And so you don't need a big agency, you don't need a big budget. You really just want to have that clarity down so everybody knows, hey, that's Zenith and Vascular Fibroid Center. You can't get away from them. So thank you, I appreciate it. And I'll turn it over to the next speaker.
Is this, whoa, that's so loud, sorry. Jack, if I could just ask you a couple questions. If someone here in this room feels that their practice is currently too small to have a brand, what's the one decision you think they should make this week to create clarity? So
of the 4 things, these 4 personal brand things that you can do, I would do these 4 steps. I wouldn't just do one and ignore the rest of them. I try to pare it down to the simplest things that you could do in a 15-minute break with technology nowadays. So I would focus on these 4 steps this weekend. Get your mission statement, get your positioning statement, get your brand logo and colors down. Make sure that you have a brand audit and you have those repeatable phrases, and you can do that within 15 to 20 minutes to get you started.
Awesome. And what do you think are the top 2 branding mistakes that OBLs make?
Well, one of the things I think is people overthink this. You know, especially if you're starting out and you're pivoting into a new brand, you're going to sit there and overanalyze this. You can always rebrand down the road when you have maybe more financial support or something to do. One thing is just start. Do these 4 pillars, don't overthink it, get going, and make sure you start getting your message out there. So I think you can overthink it a little too much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And just a reminder at the end, oh yeah, sorry. For everyone else, at the very end, we'll have a Q&A. So if you have any questions for anyone that's up here, just write it down and we'll address it at the end. Chris Gettle, come on up.
All right, thank you, Aaron, and really nice talk, Jackie. Thought that was excellent. So I'm going to cover just kind of a subsection of this, and it's really just the hard materials, the tangible materials. And for anyone interested, I just brought a packet of some of the stuff we have in our OBL. I'll hang out after the talk, and if anyone wants to see this, hold it, take a sample, you're more than welcome to do so. All right, so let's dive into this. So brand material. So, I think Dr. Majors already nailed this one, but what defines a brand? One of the common misconceptions that I've heard some of my colleagues that are less experienced building an OBL or building a brand is they think a brand and a logo are synonymous, that a brand is just a logo. And that's obviously a really important part, as we heard in the last talk, that consistency of colors and font, and that's a really important part of the brand. But your brand is going to be something that grows and becomes much more of a living, breathing thing beyond the logo. So it's what people use the logo to identify you as, and the personality that your practice takes on. The brand communicates information and has to be consistent, as we already heard. So why do brand materials matter? Well, your brand is really, it's really important to patients. So as small as it might seem, a poster in your office, a handout that a patient's taking home, the more polished and professional those materials are, people will equate that with your professionalism and your skill and knowledge as a physician. Whether or not that's fair or true, it kind of doesn't matter, because people do this all the time, right? With any product, Pepsi, Coke, potato chips, whatever the case may be. So your brand does matter, and it will help build trust and loyalty among patients and referring docs. So how do we think about brand materials? Like, what's kind of a framework we could use? I like this kind of a 3 different categories of actual brand materials. You could think of patient-facing materials. So that'd be things people see in the office, whether it's kind of what's streaming on your flat screen in your waiting room. Maybe it's the brochures on your front desk, anything patients are taking home. Then you have your referral-facing materials. So that's going to be the referral pad and similar materials. Maybe you have pens, but things that your referring physicians are going to use to more easily find you and identify you and send you patients. And then the third bucket that I kind of think of is community or external-facing brand materials. So that might be special events. If you put on a golf tournament, you might have some branded golf balls. You might have some swag that your staff all wears, and we'll show some examples of all this stuff. So here's kind of in no particular order, just a laundry list of some of the brand materials that we see in the OBL space. So referral pads being a really important one. In-office patient education materials, so that's going to be wall art or displays. I'm sure we've all seen those in primary care offices and other offices. Got to have a good business card, got to have letterhead, just kind of the main blocking and tackling, easy stuff to start a practice. So we'll take a look at these separate things. So here's kind of the easy stuff, business cards. Just do it right, pay for a reasonable business card, good card stock, high quality, double-sided, have your brand consistently displayed, make sure that the colors come out right. We've had a couple runs of our business card where they got the color wrong, and going back to the last talk, that's not what you want, right? You want it to be really consistent across all your materials. Appointment reminder cards, some patients love that. Referral pads, can't stress that enough. Really important, needs to be branded with your logo, your address, all the information. And then folders and welcome packets. We have some nice folders when we have guests for like Center of Excellence events and other important people that come into our OBL. We try and give them a really nice folder with some thoughtful material so that they have something to take home and kind of remember us by. So here's just an example of some in-office brochures we have. I've kind of seen 2 flavors of this, just the standard front back. That's a really nice way to do it. Some people prefer the trifold, whichever one you like. This is typically smaller than an 8.5 by 11. Patients usually don't want to carry that around, but they'll be more likely to take home a brochure like this. Should be informative, should be branded with your practice, not like a med device company. And should have information that is useful to the patient and that syncs with your website. So you don't want to have different clinical information or different information on your website. And we typically put a QR code on these just to link to our website with the modern technology. So kind of already covered this. I'll skip over that. Here's some other in-office educational tools. So waiting room posters, those can be really nice. Not super common, but we will have quite a few, like men, for example, that come in for a GAE, and then they're reading about prostate embolization. So we're actually talking about PAE during their GAE consult. So there's a lot of crossover services that we see, and I think that's valuable. Anatomical diagrams, that bottom image there has been great for us. We just have these laminated cards that we kind of wipe off and we can keep them clean, but really nice for patients to actually be able to visualize a diagram of their anatomy and kind of understand it faster than if we're just trying to describe, pelvic congestion or pelvic varices verbally. It's very hard for most patients to kind of figure out what's going on. Discharge paperwork, very helpful. Patients always have questions when they get home that they forgot to ask. So if you can brand that and have the information be consistent, and then TV loops and digital signage, if you have like a waiting room TV, I think that's a great thing to do. Okay, so let's show the referral pad. So this is something that really every practice needs to have. It should clearly identify your key info, your location, the services that you provide, and it should be easily fillable by like an MA or a front office person in another practice. Remember that many of these offices and physicians, even the physician may not know what we do. Their front office staff almost certainly won't know. So it's really nice to kind of have a list of all the services we do provide. In practice, most people just check the consultation box and they just say consult and treat. So they might not check a particular procedure, but that doesn't mean that that information isn't still helpful. So really spend some time, developing your referral pad, make sure it reflects what you're actually able to provide to patients. And most importantly, make sure the information's accurate. So if you open a new office, make sure you reprint those referral pads, have your new location on that. Very obvious stuff, but frequently omitted. Here are some handouts we have. So this is a little bit different than a brochure. These are 8.5 by 11 handouts, and these we really use with our dedicated physician practice liaison, who I promised I wouldn't point out, but she's in this room, so I won't look or point to her. But she's fantastic. She's a huge part of our practice and really engages other offices very successfully. So when she goes out, she's often taking these handouts and these folders in the appropriate fashion. So if it's a GI practice, it might be a lot of liver and hemorrhoid. If it's an oncology practice, it's obviously oncology focused. But these sorts of visual and informative tools geared more toward practice marketing. Here's just an example of a folder and a welcome kit. Identifies some of our key people, has a referral pad in there, business cards, etc. And then my absolute favorite part of the talk, gotta have the swag. So the swag is the best, and everybody gets excited about the swag. I mean, Patagonia jackets, not very inexpensive. They definitely run a little bit of money, but if I had to pick one ROI marketing thing in our whole practice, I'd probably go with the Patagonia jacket, because all your staff are going to wear them. They're going to wear them on the weekends. They're going to wear them to the movies. People are proud to kind of show the brand of the practice. So everybody loves this stuff. And you can do vests, we do pens, we do coffee mugs, tumblers, all that good stuff. I've lost a lot of branded golf balls around the Phoenix and Scottsdale area because I'm a pretty bad golfer. So practical guidance, like how do you actually get this stuff done? So different appetites for budget and kind of execution. Some people prefer more like a full agency. We actually retained kind of more of a professional marketing group in the very beginning before AI was really a thing. This is probably 5 years ago. So we paid for kind of a high-end brand packet, consistent brand identity. But that made sense for us because we were a larger group. It wasn't just me and one other colleague. It was 5 or 6 of us going into practice. So we could afford a little bit more as far as budget, but you might go a much smaller or much more budget conscious approach with Claude or ChatGPT or some of these other less expensive resources. When you're designing your logo, there are all kinds of lower cost options like 99 Designs. You can actually have artists and graphic designers bid on your logo and have them do iterative designs for you, or you can just have AI do it now. You just kind of decide how much money you want to spend and how professional you want to go. Printing, we found that a local community printer that we really know and have a relationship is super helpful, because if we're in a pinch, if we have an event or something we need to come up with materials for, we can just pop in. We know the guy by name. He knows our brand, and he's more than happy to help us. So that's been a really nice little bonus. And budget. It's hard to put a number, right? Everyone's different, but you don't need to break the bank on this stuff. Like you don't need to be spending $50,000 on print materials. So you can easily get off the ground with some basic brochures, some referral pads, business cards, all the kind of basic stuff for several $1,000s. It shouldn't be a huge expense. And then do remember to refresh every 2 or 3 years when your practice changes and evolves. So here's just kind of an example of some brand guidelines, kind of echoing the previous talk, but very similar principle, right? We have consistent colors. We have really well-defined colors with a color palette, very specifically defined font. We have black and white. We have kind of different logo versions. And these things are all things that we can just send to a printer or to an embroiderer or to the people that are doing exterior signage on our new OBL that's going up. So really handy to have something like this available. All right, so just kind of summing up key takeaways. So brand materials, don't think of them as vanity. Like, don't feel bad about doing this. This is just a core part of building your referral infrastructure and developing your brand. Do prioritize, so do the kind of easy stuff first: referral pads, brochures, business cards, that kind of stuff. Consistency is key. I'm just going to keep repeating that because I agree with that. Start simple, stay consistent, and remember your brand is speaking for you when you're not in the room. So make sure that it's saying what you want it to say.
I have questions. First and foremost, yes. I'm terrible at that. Sorry. We do have more chairs coming, by the way. So I put out the SOS for everyone that's standing. There are some chairs up here too, and up here if you guys want to get up there. But they are going to be bringing more chairs to put in the back. I found one of the things you said was really important was just kind of keeping your materials out on display. I found that a lot when in exam rooms, if we have a patient there for a PAE or a GAE and they see those materials, we end up doing a consult for 2 or sometimes 3 things. So that was a good one. But of all the materials that you showed us, if you had to only have one that you really dialed in and that was all you had for your practice, which one would it be, and which parts do you think it would have to have on it? What elements would need to be on it?
You mean besides the Patagonia jacket?
So the Patagonia jacket, yeah.
No, I think I would probably have to go with the referral pad. I mean, I think that one is so critical for these offices. If you've been in these offices, you know that it's often disorganized. There's a lot of turnover at the front desk. So someone might know your practice and know how to refer a PAE to you, but then they leave the practice, somebody new comes in. But if that referral pad is there and they have it, they can say, oh, that's the group we send PAEs to, and they'll sign it out. So yeah, I would probably pick the referral pad, and it's got to have those basic core elements: your referral fax number. Sometimes you have a referral email, your office addresses, and then all the services you provide and your brand logo.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Dr. Kittle. Next up, he's becoming a veteran here at OEIS, Connor McPherson.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Connor McPherson, and I spend a majority of my day-to-day working with doctors and practices across the country to improve their websites and online presence in order to help them get in front and connect them with patients that are searching for the procedures that you guys do. So I've got 10 or 15 minutes here today to try to give you all some practical tips and tricks for your own websites, whether you have one or not, and hopefully help you, with some things to consider as you're getting started, and avoid some mistakes and get you set off on a good foot. The 4 main things we'll cover today would be your website. Again, like I said, whether you're considering building one, some things to keep in mind, or things that you could take back today and audit on your current website and make sure that they're in there. We'll talk about content and treatment pages and how to organize the content on your website and how to set up those treatment pages for success. The Google Business Profile will be one of the biggest things that I cover and give you some actionable things, again, that you could do after you're done listening to us. And then we'll talk about reviews and word of mouth and how to convey that online. Why is it important? The things that I think all of us are talking about here today are going to help you get in front of more new patients or referring providers. It's all about visibility, getting in front of people that otherwise do not know about these procedures. So we need eyeballs. That will lead to more clicks to your website, calls, forms, quizzes, and ultimately providing new patients with the care that they need. I put together a 5-point formula for your website. No need to read all these. We're going to go through them here in a second. But I think, again, if you were to go back and look at your own website today, making sure that each one of these 5 things is clear and obvious on your website and that you have them, I think you'd be in really good shape. And if you don't have a website or you're thinking about building one, just consider, as that build process is happening, making sure that you have each of these pieces thought through and incorporated into that website. The first thing that I always like to talk about and really look at when I'm looking at a website for a practice is what platform is that site on? Is it on a trusted platform that's going to have good, consistent updates, or is it something that could be outdated pretty quickly? Or is it on some proprietary platform or custom coded site that is going to be really difficult for that team to go in and edit themselves? So getting yourself on a reputable platform like a WordPress website is probably one of the most popular, or Webflow. There's a lot of good ones out there. I think the biggest thing that I like to make sure is that you own your website. It seems obvious, but it gets missed a lot, or you get in a situation where you end up paying or renting your website forever, and a lot of people don't know that or know to look for it. So making sure that you own your website, I would say, is a huge mistake that can save you a lot of money if you just do it right the first time, get it on a good platform that you own. And then the other thing with these platforms too is that a lot of them are now just built to be mobile friendly and mobile first, so that it's going to look good on a phone or an iPad or different screen sizes just out of the box, depending on how it's developed. So that's another thing to consider, would be the mobile friendliness. So it is just a huge, it's a huge piece of your online presence, of course. It's where patients are going to come and check you out. So I like to make the point that it's worth, investing in, and it's a valuable, tangible asset, just like any piece of equipment that you have. It's going to stay with you forever and grow with you as your practice grows. Calls to action are the next piece of this, and you'd be surprised how often this gets missed as well, but just having, telling patients or referring providers what you want them to do when they get to your website. So a click to call phone number, it seems basic. You kind of, naturally when you're going onto a website and you scroll and you're like, wait, how do I get in touch with these people? The phone number's hard coded on the website, meaning you can't click it and call that practice right out of the gate. Request a consultation, I've got some examples. I think these are kind of good common ones. And again, just making sure you have at least 3 to 5 of these per page to allow a patient to learn more and move throughout your website and help educate them further. So things like schedule a consultation, request an appointment, take our quiz. A quiz, I'll talk about it in the next slide, I think is one of the best ways to engage with people coming to your website, to help qualify them and educate them on whether they might be a good fit for the services that you're providing for them, the procedures. Referring a patient for referring providers, then things like ebooks are also fun ways to make sure that you don't just have I call it like a website that's just static. It's just a one-page site that has nothing for you to do or no next steps. So here's an example of quizzes, and they don't have to be crazy in-depth, long quizzes. It could be 3 to 5 questions, short, simple, and help that patient, understand if they might be a fit for the procedure. Pages and content. This is another one that I think gets missed more often. than I'd like it. I think when you're looking at a website, again, sometimes you'll see a website that's just one page and it just scrolls forever and tries to get everything into one page, or it has, the tab that says services, and you go to services and all the procedures are just bullet point listed out there. And that's kind of a dead end, just telling a patient you do GAEs not enough. You need to tell them, hey, here's our knee pain page. Here's all the different symptoms, things you might be experiencing. Talk to each of these individual patients, with the symptoms and the language that they, you can kind of individualize each of these pages to the patients that you're trying to speak to. And then the other big thing that's not just a user experience thing is that having each of these pages is going to give you a huge leg up in Google and your search visibility. So rather than trying to have Google say, hey, we do all these services, I want to show up for, fibroid treatment in Las Vegas, the better way to do that is to have a full dedicated page with all of the information, all the educational material that you can on one dedicated page. And it seems basic, but I think that gets missed, and it's worth investing in having all these different pages. A trust panel. So a lot of times, a patient's first experience with your practice might be on the website. And so this is sort of your first impression with them. So we need to communicate trust in a number of different ways. Reviews is an obvious one, that word of mouth, just including things like logos of the insurances you accept. Photos or videos, I think it's a very great investment to have some professional photos and videos done of the team so that a patient can know what to expect when they are coming in to see you, and gives them a level of comfort, right out of the gates and seeing that website. FAQs, any associations, any ways to brag about yourself, basically. Let's get it on the website. Don't be shy. Trust panel is another great one, and we'll talk about this more in the advanced marketing section, I think, as well, but I think it's been brought up before, but you're also trying to show up for AI, and this is one of the great ways to get AI's attention is these comparison charts. These LLMs and AI can grab the content from these comparison charts, and that helps you show up at the top of Google and Google Gemini, AI overviews, things like that, in ChatGPT. This is a great way to do that. It's also a really great educational tool to compare your procedure versus surgery, medications, other things. So FAQs, another really good, helpful SEO tool to have on your website, answering questions that patients are frequently asking. So, if there's a lot of, questions that you're getting more often than not, go in and take the time to answer those. Doesn't have to be a long answer, just, put a couple sentences together, and that's another great thing that Google and AI is going to love, as well as patients will love this. Dr. Majors and Dr. Gettle hit this pretty well right on the head, so I don't need to belabor the point, but I do think it's important that all of the things that each of us is talking about today works together and is communicating the same messages. So everything's talking together, whether it's your flyer, your billboard, your radio, your social media, your website, should all be cohesive and work together. Your Google business profile, I would say, outside of the website, this is right up there with one of the most important things that you could have, at least for your Google presence, your online presence, for searchability. And it's really a no-brainer. I think if you do nothing else from my section, I would Google yourself today and see if you have a Google business profile, see if your practice shows up, see if your name shows up, see if you have this profile, and go in and claim it if it's not claimed. And then if it is claimed and you do own it, go in and fill this out. And then if you don't have one at all, obviously go in and create one on Google Business. I think it's google.business or something. I can help you find it. It's a free tool. Google doesn't offer a lot for free. There's not much free out there, but this is free. So go take advantage of it. And it's also a way that you can compete directly with large hospital groups. I mean, every business should have a Google business profile, so it's your opportunity to stand out in the map listings and have your business show up on the map. So I think that this is a great way to do that. Drives clicks, calls. This is your home base for all of your Google reviews. You can really load this up with all sorts of information. There is no IR business category yet. You'll see in there as you're filling stuff out, it'll ask you for a business category. There's no IR yet. I'm keeping an eye out for when that day changes. It's nice. I mean, they're showing embolizations in AI overviews now, which is great, but still not being recognized here yet. So you're gonna have to choose more of a generic thing like medical clinic, whatever best suits your practice, I think, for the meantime. And then there's secondary categories and services, that you can fill out in more detail to get really more descriptive with the procedures that you're doing and that you want to promote. Dr. Majors, I think, mentioned this as well, as you're kind of going through and figuring out how you talk about your practice. Go in and include that in your business description. Include the procedures that you want to be found for in that business description. Upload some real photos of the inside and outside of the practice. And you can also, in here is that review link to grab a QR code and a textable link that will take patients directly to your profile. Speaking of reviews, I think, speaking of marketing, I think word of mouth is the strongest marketing that you could have. So reviews are the digital version of that, and making sure that you prioritize your Google reviews and that they don't just kind of go by the wayside or they get forgotten about. Not only are you going to get more clicks on your profile, but patients more often than not, whether they're a referred patient or if they're someone that's searched and found you, they're going to be checking out those reviews. So it's important to make sure you're buttoned up there. I always like to include this photo. I think it's pretty funny as far as medical review images go. Don't stress too much about reviews. I think volume and recency is better than perfection. If you get too caught up in it, you might end up like Dr. Lewis and save somebody's life and get 4 out of 5 stars. So don't sweat it too much. They affect search visibility as well. Again, just having a consistent pace of reviews, just consistent, something happening in that profile consistently is going to, you're going to be rewarded for that with higher rankings. A 4-step review process, I feel, it's hard to give, you a review process. I think each practice is going to be different, but the ones that I hear are doing the best, they're just very tenacious with asking. You can never ask too much, I think, but ask at the front desk, text a link the same day, follow up once, respond to every review with a generic response. No HIPAA violations. Obviously, just say thank you for your review, and that's a great method there. I just wanted to include these. I'm not going to go through them all, but I think the next step after a written Google review would be getting somebody who's open to a video testimonial and just kind of interviewing them. You don't need to win an Oscar with the video. Just set up your iPhone and just start recording and see what happens. Just pick 5-6 of these questions and see what comes out of it. Just pause briefly on that one. And then putting it all together. So the next steps, I think if you don't have a URL, you can buy one today. Get on GoDaddy, buy 2. Buy your practice name, kind of lock down something if you don't have a URL. Get yourself a logo, get a website started. Creating content for each service page. Again, you could create content using AI now for each service page, but you guys are so knowledgeable, and your knowledge goes a long way for explaining these things to patients, but also for Google. So take the time to create the content, create, claim, or fill out your Google business profile, load it up with content, and post in there. Maybe not once a week, but even once a month if you could. And then get your first review, or set a goal for your reviews. If you're at 5, let's get 10. If you're at 15, let's get 20. Just keep setting the bar higher and get more reviews. So that is all from me. Thanks, guys.
I have questions. What are the 3 basic things that you think every single landing page needs to have in order to help improve conversions?
Yeah, so for a landing page, I think one of the main things would be just a really compelling headline. So again, you only have I say like 7 seconds or something to capture a patient's attention if they're coming to your website. You have to answer, who are you? What do you do? How can you help me? Right out of the gates there. So I think a compelling headline, a click to call phone number, again, a really good call to action, a form, have them take the next step. And then maybe some reviews.
Got it.
Yep.
And then for, docs are busy. So what's a simple weekly routine that can be done in the office by anyone in the office for Google reviews that can be sustainable and just part of the weekly?
Yeah, I think having a QR code at the front desk is great. I mean, you can grab it from your Google business profile. They give you a QR code, print it, put it in one of those like little stands at the front desk there, put it around the office in different places, and then just kind of get on the same page with your team and make sure that people are asking. I think a textable review link is another great way, the QR code and the text link, and just start there and see what happens.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thanks, Connor.
Thanks.
Up next, Dr. John Littman, talking about referral growth.
Thanks, Aaron. I appreciate the invite. Let's see how I'm moving this. These are my disclosures. I have a extreme negative bias towards hospital administrators and medical insurance carriers. So my task is to talk about kind of how do you grow referrals. And to do that, we're going to talk kind of very on the simplest of levels today, and then on Saturday kind of go into more of a deep dive. But just in general, first you have to be kind of focused on what type of patients are you going to be treating. For me, it's fibroids. I'm very laser focused on caring for women with fibroids and adenomyosis. I saw a recent thing where they had a bunch of billionaires in the room, some of the most successful people in the world, and I found it interesting. One of them said, I would do very poorly on Jeopardy. I don't have a general knowledge base, I am laser focused, and that's what made me successful. And so I thought about that. It's like, yeah, it's really important, I think, to try to be the go-to person for a particular condition. Hopefully, people in Atlanta know if you got a fibroid issue, they're coming to me. We do have competition, obviously, but you want to try to be the go-to person. And that kind of frames the discussion for who you're trying to talk to. I call it the audience. I put in the staff first as kind of in brackets, and we'll talk about that. They're obviously not necessarily going to be your patients, but as you heard in earlier talks, that's a really important audience to make sure that your message is really consistent. You're going to be talking to physicians, obviously. Hopefully they're going to send you patients. Hopefully the general public finds you. Hospital is also a part of your audience, and then again in brackets, legislators are important. So let's first talk about the staff. I mean, I can do the best UFE ever, but if my staff is not exemplary, they're not going to come back. And so we talk to our staff very diligently, and it's the 4 E's. We want to educate them. We want the consistent message. They got to have a lot of empathy. They got to have energy, particularly working with me, and we evaluate that. The education starts, we talk to the front staff, we're going to talk to the clinical staff. We have physician liaisons. They're outstanding, as you heard earlier. That's an important part of this. And we just talk in the very basic of terms. I give talks to our staff intermittently on just what's the basics about UFE, about fibroids, so they understand, who we're treating, why we're doing it, because they're going to be asked questions. Patients will call, and your front staff's going to answer questions, and they've got to understand what to say. We have a patient FAQ on our website. What are the most common things that come up? And we teach the answers to our staff. It's really important for them to understand these things. They have to be empathetic. There is a very successful restaurateur in New York City, Danny Meyer, who I stole this from. HQ is much greater than IQ. We don't hire for intellect. We hire for hospitality quotient. That's the measure of someone's ability to want to please other people. Because I can teach them the simple things that I need to teach them about working with us. But what I can't teach is what's in their heart. And so we will hire for HQ, and believe me, that is a huge ROI for your practice. They gotta be energetic. They gotta love coming to work. I love coming to work. In fact, I just came back from our 40th medical school class reunion, 40 years. And most of my colleagues are retired. And they're like, why are you working? I'm like, I love what I do. I hope I can keep doing this for as long as possible. And that energy's got to radiate through your practice. Everybody in there's got to be the super positive people, because that will get back to the referring physicians, and it kind of begets itself. If your staff loves coming to work, and the clinical staff loves coming to work, and you love coming to work, it can't but help the output and what the end product is. And again, it's a huge ROI for your business. And then you got to evaluate it, as you heard. You got to measure these things. So when it comes to physician outreach, okay, I know what I'm doing now, and now who are the people I need to get in front of? So you got to be known before you're chosen. So doctors like to refer to people they trust or they know. And so if you're in the hospital setting, you know, you're going to try to be seen. You're going to show up at rounds. Maybe you give rounds, show up at conferences. You're in the department. You go to the doctor's lounge, the cafeteria. You're just in the spaces where other doctors are, and you just strike up conversation. There are also directories and physicians directories. Obviously, on the Google, you can find doctors that you want to talk to and reach. And then there are even, we saw earlier today, a thing on claims data. You can find other doctors. And the simplest thing is the traditional lunch and learn. Go into a doctor's office. You want to get in front of a certain referring physician's office, you go. We do it with a liaison. I will join her, not every time, try to get there when she's there, but sometimes she just goes by herself. But she can do a lot of the heavy lifting, ranging for food for the office, connecting with the staff, our branded materials. Our color, by the way, is Radiant Orchid, so that's our color. The referral forms, all the things you heard about earlier talks, consistent, and she brings all those. And she likes when I come because more likely she'll be able to get physician time. Whereas if your liaison shows up, particularly if they don't know you're coming, you won't likely meet with a physician. You might get a referral coordinator, maybe, or maybe just somebody in the front office staff. But if the physician is coming, like myself, you'll get doctor time. And she likes that. And the doctors also they always have questions for you, because they may not know much about, say, UFE, and want to know what patients are you doing on, what patients don't you do. So you can answer a lot of the patient selection stuff. That seems to be very common, what they want to know. You can dispel the myths and urban legends. There's a lot of that in the UFE world. And you can make the physician more comfortable. They see you, they realize you know what you're talking about, and they feel comfortable referring to you. You might offer them patients that they don't want to do surgery on. We had a patient that was referred to us. She had multiple myomectomies and also multiple C-sections, kind of an angry abdomen, and so they'll refer that patient perhaps. Or somebody that's difficult to treat. They've had not only multiple surgeries, maybe they're morbidly obese, they're not a great surgical candidate, they're Jehovah's Witness, they don't take blood products, or whatever the reason. You can start there, low-hanging fruit, stuff that they are going to not necessarily operate on or would prefer not to operate on. One of the big things, I think, and I talked to somebody earlier today about this, is that they were saying, well, my gynecologist won't refer me any UFE. I'm like, well, how much business do you refer to them? And he was like, not really, nothing. Well, you got to be a referrer to them, and I guarantee you will change the dynamic. When you start sending them business, I'm a huge referrer to gynecology. Maybe the patient doesn't have a gynecologist or needs a new gynecologist, or for whatever reason, we do cases together. We might do a combined approach where I embolize them and 3 weeks later they get a MyoSure. Whatever it is, be a referrer to that physician too, because it's obviously they are in practice, they have a business just like you. You can network and if you're in the hospital setting, again, we talked about some of this already, staff meetings, grand rounds. Be a participant in your state medical society, your local medical society. That's really important. Obviously, lots of physicians. I'm part of the Cobb County Medical Society. I'm part of the Atlanta Medical Association. You've got to be active and out there, getting in front of the people you want to send your way. You can host a physician event. There are a couple different types of physician events you can do. We did one with the Atlanta Medical Association where I was just speaking to the doctors, a clinical talk about the treatment of menorrhagia. Now, I wasn't talking about my practice. I was just giving a talk on menorrhagia. You might have vendor support for a CME dinner where you actually are talking about your practice. Again, you've got to kind of know what you can and cannot do as far as, if you're using vendor support for that. You might invite a doctor to your center. We invite gynecologists, come watch me do a UFE. They've never seen it before, they're intrigued, and it does dispel a lot of the, urban myths out there. You can have at a referring physicians meeting, like I've spoken at OBGYN Society meeting, I've spoken at ACOG, be at their meetings and try to be a speaker, or if you can't be a speaker, be a vendor. We're a vendor at these meetings, and so again, you're going to get in front of the people that you want referrals from, and make it easy. One-page form, you heard about the QR code, very simple, fast appointments, particularly for new referrals, and then get that note back right away. You want to be good and make the referring physician also look good with his patients or her patients. There are other types of physicians that are less, not going to be the first people you're going to go see, but surprisingly, you get in front of these other like chiropractors or dentists. They know what you do and they have friends perhaps, or it's still important to get in front of other people. You just never know. The more you can get out there. We have independent nurse practitioners now that are seeing patients on their own. It depends really on state by state, but this is an important referral source, and speak at their meetings. They love to get doctors to come and speak. And you want to have this consistent message. As you saw earlier, we're less invasive, same day. Patients go home the same day. They're happy. They don't have to deal with the hospital at all, and they get back to work quickly. You heard in the last talk about the importance of a website. Absolutely critical for your success is an integrated website, trackable landing pages. There's call to action, as he mentioned, testimonials, video. All of that is important, and it all has to be integrated. It has to be an integrated site. We know how long people are coming on each page of our website, how long they spend, whether they go away, whether they actually make an appointment. We want to know all of that. The front staff, as I mentioned earlier, they have to be educated on what to say. You could use scripts. We try not to use scripts. I like to talk to them and give them talks and kind of scripting, but some people use scripts. I don't particularly like that. But you can consider a CRM, customer relation management, that tracks the patient's journey throughout the entire, going from a customer, if you will, on the website, all the way through to becoming a patient. And we track each stage of that, and we'll talk more about that on Saturday. And you want to measure everything. You heard, if you were at the lunch today, you heard them talk about KPIs, the performance indicators. We use, how many consults, how many procedures, the time from the initial outreach through the process to consult and from consult to procedure. And we measure them frequently on a monthly basis. So know your target, and you want to be present in those rooms. So whatever type of practice you have, you want to be in front of those people. As far as the general public, for us it means going to doing health fairs, whether it's with a corporate health fair or a community health fair. We're going to talk to women's groups. We even sometimes talk to men's groups. Men have women in their lives, and it's not something to ignore. Business groups and associations. We're part of the local Chamber of Commerce in our county. That's really important. So you can get in front of them in an actual sense, and then you can do these same things virtually. A lot of these meetings are done, with Zoom and other virtual things that are really important to keep in front of as many people as you can. You can use a liaison. We do. I like using the liaison. She's very good. And you've got to leverage the patient experience. That's a huge advantage for us. With the hospital, I'm no longer in a hospital any longer, but some of the things we used to do years ago, again, be present at conferences, be on committees, get to know the hospital marketing team. One of the things that was really surprising, our practice had been with the hospital for years and years before I joined, and the hospital marketing team had no idea who we were. It was like stunned. And so the hospital will do events, be part of that, be on the speakers bureau, and let people know what you do and how well you do it. Offer, you're doing curbside consults, people will come to the department and you do a curbside and then they see your expertise. Taking call and showing up with a smile. I saw a thing about how referrals in a hospital setting really come down to two things: reliability and collegiality. Do you show up and are you friendly? Because competence is assumed. If you're in the hospital, your competence is already assumed. It's really about being friendly and do they like working with you and are you reliable? Do you show up? And then lastly, legislative. This is becoming more and more important. Believe me, our competition is at the legislative table, and we need to really be there as well. And we've got to support legislators. It's a pay to play, but we've got to be in the game. We've got to educate what we do in front of them because they're making decisions about us. And if they don't know what we do, they're going to just make decisions, and it's not going to be pleasant for us. Our medical society has a legislative dinner a couple times a year where local politicians come out, and believe me, I'm there. I want to be in front of them. I want to make sure they know what we do. There's a doctor day at the Capitol that we participate in. It's really important. There's a congressional health fair. Our congressman has a health fair every year. We've spoken at that. We have a booth every year, a table. I was actually invited to the Capitol, the state Capitol, during July, which is Fibroid Awareness Month in Georgia, to speak to legislators. It's really important. And support PACs. And by PACs, I don't mean the archiving system. I mean the Political Action Committee. We have a PAC, OEIS PACs. Definitely, please support that. It's important. And get involved in your county and state medical societies. So in conclusion, you have to have kind of some self-awareness. Identify what you like to do. Identify that niche. Prepare your staff. You're known before you're chosen. Try to be that go-to person. And know the audience, who you're trying to reach, and be in those rooms and bring a chair if necessary. It looks like I'm going to need a chair because I'm the odd man out here. But be relentless. And we have great stories to tell, and we are changing the trajectory of people's lives, and they need to know what we do and know about that. Thank you.
Before you go, so if someone in this room is starting a UFI program on Monday, OBL just got off the ground, who would you tell them to go and target first?
Well, gynecologists, obviously, as well as primary care physicians. Those are probably the two most important people to get in front of. Gynecologists are obviously the gatekeepers of women's health, and there's a lot of misinformation in the gynecology community about UFE, and you've got to be there and explain to them a lot of the stuff that you couldn't believe what they believe, and so it's important. Same with primary docs. Primary care physicians, even less aware of UFE and embolization, and they just are used to knee-jerking it to gynecology, and you got to kind of break that referral pattern, and it takes effort and it takes consistency.
And you had mentioned doing dinners or physician events. What's the follow-up that your staff or that you do the week after those dinners, or is there any follow-up?
Oh yeah, it definitely has to be. You've got to have follow-up. You've got to know of the doctors in the room who showed up, and you have their contact information, and we'll have our liaison follow up with them. Thanks for coming out. And here's individual materials from our practice. We really appreciate, because physicians want to be educated, but also we want to make sure we get in front of them and hopefully change a lot of those referral patterns that are kind of get ingrained. And so if we can break that and get in front of them, and we're the go-to choice rather than whatever else they're referring to.
Awesome. Thank
Thanks.
you so much from a master. Next up, yeah, Rachel Biesinger. Is it Biesinger or Biesinger?
B-Singer.
Biesinger, doing social media stuff.
B-Singer.
Biesinger. Biesinger.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me here. I'm just really grateful to be on stage with a bunch of amazing speakers. I think what I want to talk about is like the fun part of this now, right? Social media can be really fun. I think everything that we've talked about so far, from branding to the materials in your office to your website to the actual referrals on boots on the ground type of marketing, is all important. And really, I think one of the places that gets kind of neglected and is the easiest to access is social media. So I got to figure out the clicker thing here. Give me a second. Okay, so show of hands real quick, and I know we ask this every year. How many people are doing embolizations? All right, there's more than there was last year. How many of you have social media pages? Okay, good, you're all in the right room. All right, so who am I? I am not an influencer. I'm not even a social media expert, right? They put me on the panel as that. My teenagers laughed. They were like, Mom, you can't even use TikTok or how to figure out find a story on Instagram. But what I do know how to do is help OBLs, ASCs. I want to advocate for you guys to stay open, and I want to advocate for you guys to be able to bring patients in by also supporting all of your other marketing efforts, right? So everything that social media does is just in tangent and kind of adds on to everything else that you guys are doing. So that's what I want to show you how to do that today. Okay, so the truth about, and I hear this all the time. Every time I talk to doctors, like, I don't have time. I don't have time. In fact, hold on, I need your guys' help with something real quick. Sorry, this is going to take some participation from the audience.
Are you getting on your social media?
Yeah. Hey everybody, Rachel here on stage at the 2026 OEIS Annual. Everybody say hi. Okay, we're going to do that one more time. Hi. Okay, I'm about to teach these fine folks how to use social media to earn patient trust. If you're not here, you're losing. And also come and see us in the exhibit hall this weekend on table 12. Thanks. That took less than 60 seconds. And I made content. And you guys are all part of it, right? They know who I am. They know where I am. They know what I'm doing. They know who I'm with. And I had a call to action. I didn't say bye, see you later. I said, if you're not here, you suck. And come and see us in the exhibit hall, right? So it's super easy. Like I hear all the time, I don't have time. That took 60 seconds. So I'm going to show you guys now, what do you do with that, right? So it's more than just one post. Some people do it. They try, they start. They're like, I did it. I got a couple clicks. It just didn't work. You have to build a system. You have to be consistent with it. There's so many faces in here that from last year, I've seen your social medias. I see what you guys do now, and it's so impressive, and I love opening it up every single week to see what you guys are doing. I'll play this real quickly. So this is a physician in Richmond, Virginia, right? When I started working with him, I asked him, hey, do you have, I don't know how to pause this video. Okay, I asked him, hey, do you have any assets to share? He's like, what do you mean, what is that? I was like videos, if a lead comes in, if someone wants more information, they're not really sold on this yet, what can we share with them besides your website? Yeah, I've got these videos, I have a YouTube, I have TikTok, he does a really great job. And on that particular video, he goes, yeah, but I don't know, Rachel, I think I should redo this one. And I was like, why? He's like, because people make comments about me driving in the car and talking on the phone, right? And I'm like, first of all, everyone does it, don't lie, right? But it stops the scroll. I liked it. I said, no, that's the type of video, we don't overthink it when it comes down to it, really. It's natural. It shows you're a human being. He talks about, I'm driving home from work. Oh, he drives home from work. He has kids. He's leaving the office. It humanizes who he is, but also gives them, time to talk about genicular artery embolization or uterine fibroids, whatever he's trying to address. So it doesn't have to be something super fancy is what I'm trying to say. There was some discussions up here too about look when people look for you, right? So social media isn't just for attention unless you're 15 years old. This is for validation. People are using social media now to look you up. It's not just Google, it's not Yelp. An example, coming here, I wanted to find a restaurant to eat at, right? I was like, I want to go have one of Dave Ramsey's places, right? Hell's Kitchen. I didn't go to Yelp to look it up. I went to Instagram because I want to see what are people eating there? Where are they sitting there? Like, what's the vibe? What do people wear? I went to social media to try and see that location and if I should go there. People are doing the same thing when it comes to medical practices. Even if they're given a referral from their primary care to go see Dr. Lippman for uterine fibroid, I guarantee you those women are going on socials to see who's talking about this, who has been there before, who's had an experience there before. So it actually does work. And when you're not on social media, you guys are silent. Like, that was the last part of that. I don't even think I really need to say that. And it's not that you need more content. Like, don't think you have to have your phone out all day long recording yourself. You just need to have a system. You have to have something in place to make sure that it's consistent. This is just a quick 30-minute rule that we kind of created that is really simple, right? 20 minutes to film, 5 minutes to post, and 5 minutes to reply. Make sure you guys reply to comments, to things. What is the point of putting stuff out there if people ask questions? Well, hey, doc, do you guys take this insurance? Or can you tell me how it compares to an ablation? Something like that. Interact with people, because the more you guys do that, and everyone here has social media knows, it pushes your post back up to the top. So you get more eyeballs, you get more people to look at it and to see it. And honestly, it's an easy way to get people to come into the office, right? It's, hey, let me send you a DM and let's connect personally. So the 4-bucket rule, and I like to call these the EPP, right, is education. That one's big. That's obviously, what are you talking about, right? You're going to educate on your procedure or whatever the specifics are of that content, that creative. The proof testimonials for me, I think, are the best, right? Or before and afters. You guys can show photos. We've seen those in some of the cases this morning. Milestones, objections that you hear, right? What keep people from moving forward with this sort of procedure. The process, what to expect. That's a big one, I think, that everybody missed. So, you know, we do a lot of direct-to-patient marketing, and they always ask, what next? Like, especially for your uterine fibroid, the ladies are like, what happens? What happens when I come to the consult? Or PAE, well, is he gonna look at me? Like, what's gonna happen? What do I have to do this? And then just be yourself. Show your personality. Like, if you've got, you can smile. You guys, everyone smile. Everyone can smile, right? Like, people just wanna see your personality. That's a good smile. And really, what do you need? Super simple. Again, don't overthink it. Everybody in here has a phone. I've seen everyone on their phone. Some natural lighting, a quiet room, and eye-level framing. You don't need to have this big production. I remember when I was actually working in an OBL and I convinced my doctor, who was amazing bedside manner, great reviews, people loved him. I was like, let's get you on camera and let's get people to see who you are. I want to share you with the world. And I brought in a crew and he was like, hello, my name, and it was like, who are you? You're a robot. And he's like, I can't do this. And I was like, chill out. Like, I had to sneak a camera on my phone to record him to be more natural. And he's like, oh, I can't do this. I was like, yeah, okay, we're not going to put that online. Okay, so how to turn one video into multiple assets. So these are our friends over at North Star. Again, you guys have done an awesome job, and I know my girls are in the back there. But really, they use their staff, their PA, the physicians, everybody in the office participates with this. And they use all kinds of different clips. But you can take a 60-second clip. I'm gonna have my clip on Instagram and on Facebook and LinkedIn before you guys even leave this room, right? This is like, you can use it very quickly. And how you create your, what we call the copy, like taglines, because that's where I think a lot of people struggle too. They're like, do I use hashtags anymore? And I don't know what to do. Use AI, folks. Like, put it in there and say, here's a photo. How do I get more patients? Literally, it will give you like emojis and all these fun things to put in. Everyone uses it on LinkedIn. It's super simple to do. The cadence. Okay, how often should you do this? Again, this comes down to time. Really, I think successfully 2 to 3 is a good post, right? Because you can do education on Monday, the process, and then proof and your personality on Friday. If you look at it all, that's 12 posts a month. That's 144 per year. And it doesn't cost you guys anything. You're already paying your phone plan. Social media, I think, is free for most people, right? Unless you're using paid ads and stuff. So this is like literally in the palm of your hand. Call to actions. I think Connor talked about this, and this is what I love, is direct people. Tell them what to do. Now that they've seen your face and they see your video and whatever, what do they do with it? Okay, nice. Tell me what you think. They're like, pass. No. Come to our website, click this link, take our quiz below. Call us at the office, book your consultation. See if you're a candidate for this procedure, click below. So you have to give call to action. That's what we use as CTA. And then what does this all actually do? So for patients, it just builds trust, right? So now they're gonna come into your office, they're ready. Maybe it was a man who saw your prostate artery ad somewhere and they're embarrassed, they don't know what questions to ask, so they look on your socials, half their questions are asked now. Cool, I don't need a catheter, they're not gonna stick anything in there, and blah, 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 right? They know some of these things, they come in ready, they're comfortable, and they're ready really to, okay, sign me up, doctor, whatever you need. It improves your show rates. You kind of let down that guard, and is this real? Especially if you're doing any social media or direct-to-patient marketing, sometimes it's kind of scammy, right? Like, are these people even real? This shows that you are a real person in a real clinic. It reduces friction, it builds the referral confidence, and then it shows that you are the specialist, that this is what you do and you are this me in this area. So building a system for this, I think Dr. Bachner is going to talk a lot about this, because what do you do now? Okay, you put it on Facebook, it's out there, you're like, okay, call to action was call us, and now you're sitting there and you're waiting, what happens, right? So you make sure you have a process afterwards. Where do the leads come from? Did they convert to anything? What are your show rates like? Which piece of content works the best? You know, was it Gabby dancing in the hallway, or was it Emma talking about hemorrhoids and how annoying they are? Like, think about the different pieces that you put out to see what really works, and then just replicate that. Like, if you have one style and you're just sitting there and you're doing the same thing and you don't see anything from it, that's insanity, right? Why would you keep doing that? And then your landing pages. So again, this goes back to what Connor was saying, is have a landing page. Like, if it's something that you guys can include, whether it's a QR code. I love what you said about the phone number, right? Like, when you click, it's so annoying when I'm out and about and I can't call somebody and I don't have anything to write on. I love that button. What did you call it again?
Just click to call.
Click to call. Yes, please, everyone get a click to call. I want a click to call. I think we should all have click to call. And either way, stop being invisible. This is the most easiest way for you guys to do this, and it's fun. Like, it doesn't have to be painful or hurt. Anyways, this is me. If you guys want to talk about it more, we'll be here all weekend. I've got a couple more slides, but thank you. Of course, you have questions.
I always have questions. So if in practices, and this happens a lot in OBLs, they can get pretty narrowly focused. You know, you mentioned North Star, you know, famously PAE driven, and then Dr. Littman, UFE driven. How can they keep their posts feeling fresh and not just the same thing over and over and over again? Because I think that is one of the things that maybe scares a lot of docs from posting a lot on social media, because they just think they're saying the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, how often can you do another talk about PAD where it's just the same thing over and over again? So what would be your recommendation to a doc that doesn't want to feel overly redundant or bored with the posting that they should be doing?
I think that's where we go back to the 4 buckets, right? And you look at, okay, what is today's topic going to be? It's education. There's so many different parts of the procedure or the education you can talk about. Who's a good candidate first, right? Why this versus hysterectomy? What are the possible outcomes, either or, right? Risk factors, things like that. And then, like, what to expect the day of. I think breaking it down, because patients have so many questions. So really think about what questions do people ask you, and then break those down into segments. Spend your 60 seconds on that one topic answering that one thing. That's a piece of content that you can use on all these different platforms.
And then if we talk about different kinds of posts, what are if you can only make 2 kinds of posts, to help build trust fast with patients, what kinds of posts would you be doing?
I think the patient testimonials go a long way. I know it sometimes feels hard when you're like trying to get at the phone to get them to record it, but really everybody gets reviews, right? When you go to the car dealership, they ask you for a review. So why not have your patients give you a review like that? Like they literally, except for the guy that gave the 4-star for saving his life, you know, ask them, just say, and real quick, do it right there on the fly, on the spot. If you ask them to come back in and make it all, again, this formal thing, they're probably not gonna show, they're gonna get busy or they're gonna get shy, whatever it might be. But I think patient testimonials go a long way. And then I think addressing some of the questions that you know people don't wanna ask, right? Especially like for prostates. I think that's an easy one to kind of address right up front on social media. And then I would say prostates and UFIs, I would do a lot of education.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Great talk.
Thank you.
Dave Batra is next. On the social media topic, reminder to everyone that there is a social media raffle at this conference. So if you take a picture with a vendor or an OEIS placard and then tag OEIS on Instagram or LinkedIn, you'll be entered into the raffle and you can then win a prize. Did I do that right, Jerry? Yes.
Yes, way to go.
All right, Dave, you're up, man.
All right, Dave Batra, I'm the founder of Texas Vascular Institute based in Dallas, Texas. I'm going to talk about the end of all of this. This has been fantastic. I mean, all of this input from all of this, the members of this panel, I've been through every single one of these steps. From the very beginning, 8 years ago when we started the practice, I was the guy who was making those cold calls. I was the guy going to the offices. I was the guy waiting for that fax referral to come in, calling the patient, saying, hey, it's Dr. Batra, how you doing? What's going on? And so this is just such valuable information. Now, as you go through this whole entire process, it comes to now the front desk and how do you convert these things and make your own engine. So the front desk reality overall, it's just not administrative support. It's really critical for conversions, and when you look at it, it's about timing and communication. Overall, you have a 72-hour window to get engaged these individuals as they get through the process. But the big thing is that if you don't engage these individuals quickly, it's going to cost you revenue at the end. So what are the standards for converting? So overall, we want to make sure that as soon as a lead comes in, that we have an individual who has been coached. We don't like to script it, we like to coach them. As being the physician, we understand that the lead comes in and we want to appropriately engage that individual with education first. So within the very first moment that that lead comes in, we have someone to engage that individual. Live phone contact during business hours, automate the nurturing sequence for the after hours inquiries, and then clear escalation of path for the unreachable leads. And I'll come back to this unreachable leads portion as well. So the very first day for the follow-ups, when you have the initial contact, what happens if someone doesn't answer their phone? What kind of process do you have? Overall, we want to make sure that we contact that individual, say, hey, something we noticed that you have, you engaged for PAE. Well, that individual is a male that we have doing that, right? To make sure that we have a good cadence for that individual to ask questions that will lead them to coming into the office. Overall, if they don't engage after day 2, then we go ahead and we do a value reminder that highlights the unique benefits to this. This is minimally invasive. It's covered by your insurance. We would love to talk to you about the process. And then overall, if we will try again at the end after a week to see if the call to action is working or not working for that. And then what we do is we have a CRM that kind of does full circle. So it gives you a reminder at 30 days to re-engage this individual, saying, hey, just wanted to follow up. It's been a month. We saw that you looked at our website, and so we want to make sure that if we do have it, we'll give them one last chance. Phone scripts, I say it's coaching. I mean, overall, we want to make sure that we get this to an appointment, and it really makes the individual who is engaging these potential patients, they make them feel really, really good because they become subject matter experts in the engagement process of those individuals. And as the circle goes through, they see the rewards when that patient walks in, and they can see this individual sitting there going, oh yeah, I spoke to you on the phone with that thing. So, but we also want to say, like, opening hooks, we want to engage the patients from the get-go. And overall, instead of saying Miss Smith, I'm like, hey, Miss Nancy, how are you? And, being very gregarious on the phone and really engaging these individuals. And then three to five questions that really lead to their pain points. Because overall, it's essentially a semi-cold call that you're going through these leads. But if you can really target that pain point and then set the narrative to the story, you have a higher likelihood of getting those patients inside of the door. Overall, the value positioning that happens, connecting with the needs with myself or one of my other partners in the practice works out really good. The other thing is that I never ask a patient, or our staff don't ask patients on, hey, so when would you like to schedule? We offer them a time, because right then and there, it's got a better commitment to that thing. We've already done the nurturing of the commitment. We've found their pain point, and then from there it says, hey, I've got Thursday available at 2 p.m. I've got Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. What would you like to do? I see that you're located in this part of town. Our most convenient location is this one. Right, we don't ask them where they live. We do that on the front end to make sure that we know where they live, and then give them that option to that location. So overall, when we coach our individuals on how to engage a patient, we want to make sure they have empathetic listening skills. We want to say that it's urgent, that we have something that can really benefit them with minimally invasive techniques. And then overall, if they say, no, I'm not interested, okay, yeah, what prompts you can just ask, like, this is just where we're building up that infrastructure of understanding to the patient so we can better coach everybody who's engaging the patients on the phone with that. And so, and we also want, when we want to close, that we want to make sure that we engage them on giving them a time and a place that they can come to us. Referral tracking sources. I have a meeting every week on Tuesday that goes through every single one of these things. And the responsibility is that, the documentation should be easy. It should not be, 15 type form questions. I try to keep it very, very, simple. Weekly reporting that we review. We want to know why individuals do not want to come in for their consultations. And, if we have referrals that are coming from docs, it's very fast. I mean, we're getting these people in very, very, very quickly. And then as we get the notes completed, they go back, or we have 4 physician liaisons that deal with the DFW market. So they'll go back to the referring physicians and give them the notes that are there. And overall, the CRM that we use, it's put in by the physician liaisons or by the leads that come in. Then it goes into the patient came in the door, or if they didn't come inside the door, the reason why they didn't come into the door, then what actually I started doing is I spend 30 minutes a week in which, one of my MAs will call the patient and say, hey, Dr. Butcher's available to answer any of your questions. And it's really simple. I mean, it's 30 minutes of my whole entire week. But I'll talk to 11 patients out of 20, and I just got 11 more patients than 0, just because I've made that effort of doing that 30 minutes of activity to make sure that they have, but it also makes them feel really, really good knowing that it is. But even to this, out of those 11 people that I got, I only spoke to 6 of those. The fact that they knew that the doctor was actually available to speak to them was enough for them to say, no, I'll go ahead and I'll schedule an appointment with you. With those things. So that it kind of assists the conversion rate through the patient's journey. It's really good when you're tracking the referral sources, because you're getting a better understanding of the journey that the patient is going through and also what the staff is going through. So the coaching efforts that we put forth with our individuals, they become automatic in learning how they want to adjust. But then they also speak to the rest of the team on what the wins and the losses were for that week. We want to hear, like, oh man, like, I spoke to this patient, they said this, and I said this. I'm like, that's it. You got it. But then the next person, we have a team of 4 people who engage all the leads, and those people are talking to each other, so they're all educating themselves. So marketing initiatives, overall, we want to review the generations. We want to make sure that whatever is coming in is meeting the criteria, because we are in the business of quality, not quantity. But if we get quantity with quality, we've won. And that really shows that marketing initiative is working very, very effectively, and that we're doing a good job in making sure that the engagement of that individual is educationally based and it's giving their prompt to come inside the office. Post-visit follow-ups, 24-hour checkups. Afterwards, we want to address their concerns, their care instructions. Someone is always engaging that individual. We always preemptively tell them that that's exactly what the plan is going to be. The educational touch points, very, very vast. We make sure that everybody's educated with it. We have, like these guys on the panel said, we've got billboards literally in the rooms that show exactly where it is. We can draw on them, everything. It makes it very, very easy. A lot of the patients, one of the big things that you want to see from your patients, you want them to say, hey, this is more information than I've ever gotten at any other office I've ever been to. If you're getting that response from your patients, which we get on a daily basis, you have done it correctly. That's what it is. Because we have gotten to a point, we're getting to a point now where our educational purpose is so much more powerful, and the patients are recognizing it with that. Social proof collection, like Rachel was saying, we want to make sure that we're engaging the appropriate individuals, and those leads are quality, not quantity. But if those quantity things are, and making adjustments on the fly. And I think that's the reason why our weekly meetings have been really, really powerful in speaking to our third party partners to make sure that we're getting those people correctly. Common conversion leaks, unanswered calls. It's timing and communication. The overall having that infrastructure in place, abandoned follow-ups, not making sure that you have those time sets that say, hey, engage on day 2, day 3, day 7, day 30 with those things. Vague scheduling, call back later, we want to make sure that we engage them and giving them a time and a place on our thing. And we have to track these things. Overall, the data does not lie. It's always going to be beneficial to you if you're reviewing that data in a timely manner to make sure you can make those pivoting adjustments quickly. So this is the final thing. So overall, response standards, make sure that you have a process that's in place. So script training, I call it coaching. That's very important. Role-playing consultations. Hey, what about this? Oh, another thing that we do is that we review the calls for all the individuals on the team to say if they go, yeah, this was a difficult one that I couldn't really get engaged, but I know that they need a GAE. And so we'll review that, and then we'll just talk through it. And so overall, tracking systems with our CRM, which goes 360 all the way to the end of their procedure cycle, and also the having those cadence of meetings in which we're looking to see that we're not losing any leaks in our audited processes that are going, because it's such a fluid and dynamic system in which you got to have control of it. That's it. What you got, Kovaleski?
All right, Dave. So someone in this room asks you to come and visit their office and see their process at the front desk. What is if you could pick one thing that you would want to see that would improve conversion rates at the front, what one thing would you be looking for?
The personality of the individual at the front desk. Hands down, that's it. Like when we started the practice, the person who would be talking to the patients was my wife. So every time now that we end up hiring somebody, they have to be like my wife, right? Yeah. So overall, answer. Right? Yeah. You like that? Yeah. So make sure someone recorded that and send that to my wife. Yeah. So, but it is really important. They're the lifeblood of your practice. They're the face of your practice as soon as you walk in, and the way that their tone is and how they engage the individual is very important.
And then with the people that you have working at in your front office area, are they specialized? Do you have one person that does scheduling, one person that does phone calls, one person that does this, or are they all cross-trained to do it all?
Great question. They're all cross-trained. Every single one of them, because that meetings that we have the engagement, they're all learning, they're all actively involved. And so overall, like I kind of mentioned, was that like the PAE person is a male because, you know, it's more private for that. But for other things like the UFEs will be a female. We have a large Hispanic population, so we have all of our members on our team who are engaging on conversations on the phone are all Hispanic, so they're all Hispanic speaking. So we kind of cover those things. But we've learned that through trial and error of knowing that, okay, yeah, why do we have to have two different people when we can have one person do this and engage this whole population?
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. So I actually get to stand. I'm not going to speak though. This is the Q&A. But before we get going on the Q&A, the reminder: there's a tech symposium at 3:30, I think, with hors d'oeuvres and drinks. Supposed to tell you guys that. But do we have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question for Dr. Makers and Chris. For the billboard, is there multiple billboards running? Why did you choose that campaign for plantar fasciitis, and is it working?
Question was about billboards and if there's more than one, and why did they choose the PFE as the campaign, and is it working?
So we have multiple billboards that run throughout the year. So we just have that one specific one. It's in a main highway that runs around the city of Memphis. So if you're coming or going from Memphis, you should be able to see it. We have had uterine fibroid embolization on that, and we've also had GAE. We try to do our embolic procedures. I'm a vascular surgeon. I pretty much do PAD. We find that it doesn't attract PAD, those types of billboards. And so we decided to start this new procedure line, the plantar fasciitis. And so that's just one of the touch points of how we started to try to get the word out. Nobody else in our city is doing it. So again, this is just a broad stroke that we're doing to get people are noticing it. They love that giant foot. And so we had one of our marketing team make it. And I think it's really just a couple $1,000s to put it up.
Well, why steal that idea? And then, I asked you about for TV commercials. I've seen them online. Love your guys' stuff. Does it work? I know it's pretty expensive.
For us, you mean?
Yeah.
Are you in the Phoenix market?
No, I just do research a lot for all these TV commercials. We're trying to get into it.
Yeah. No.
Use your guys' kind of as a model for ours.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so TV, we've tried a few different things. We partnered with a local TV station that we thought was a good candidate station. They're kind of family owned, but they're the ABC affiliate in our market, and it's a really big market. You know, Phoenix is huge, so we figured that there was a pretty big catchment of people watching that both in the morning and the evening. And so we did kind of like a infomercial type session where it feels very much like a news segment, but it's actually a paid spot. And going back to the talk, it's kind of the educational aspect, you know, to correlate with social media. It's very educational. So we had some success with that. I think it's very procedure dependent. I would say GAE and PAE are probably the sweet spot for TV. UFE, I don't know, defer to Dr. Lippman, but the things like liver cancer, PAD, I think those are harder because those are more referral driven. So the things that are more patient driven, GAE, PAE, I think are the sweet spot for TV.
Yeah, I would say we looked at a couple very targeted TV things, and it was even that was fairly expensive compared to the much less expensive stuff on social media, which the return is much better. But any of these things is really local. Some markets, billboards and print will return. Some markets, radio. Some markets, TV. You got to kind of know what works for you, and it may have to go through some of these things to figure that out. But for us, we don't do any TV anymore.
How many of the panelists utilize a marketer in-house where you kind of configure their day, send them to identify referral sources, and employ your marketer?
So question was, how many people up here have an in-house marketer? From my personal experience, I kind of look at that question as a little bit like there's what I would call a boots on the ground or a physician liaison marketer, and then you have a marketing coordinator. So, typically like a physician liaison, they aren't going to be they're going to be going out marketing, dropping off materials, knocking on doors, setting up lunch and learns, setting up all that other stuff. But they're not going to be, doing the creative on your radio commercials or your TV commercials. That, for me, is a separate person. So I have both. So I have a physician liaison in-house that goes out and knocks on doors. And then I have a third-party consultant that takes care of television, social media, radio, all that stuff. I don't know about everyone else up here.
Yeah, with the physician liaisons, we have 4 of them, and so there's a difference between sales and marketing. And so a marketing person, we do have a marketing person who she was like the PR person for TCU. She comes in, she kind of sets the standard for the month that everybody's going to follow. She also is a physician liaison, so she's kind of dual. But she's been a great add. But overall, to answer your question, yeah. So what we do is that we have weekly meetings with those individuals, and our CRM will show us who the top 20 docs are and what changes have occurred in the referral patterns that are there. Because we want to see that if a competitor is coming into the market and they're trying to take over our referrals, that we're going to be actively pursuing that. That's just a small portion. The bigger portion is that you want to know whether or not there's turnover in those offices. And so you'll see that by the lead generation that comes from those offices, because it'll dramatically drop down. So it gives a ping to your physician liaison to go over there and go and see, hey, so where did Cynthia go? Oh, she moved to Alaska. Oh, well, she was the referral coordinator. And then since we have those meetings, then we know that we can re-engage those individuals to make sure that we still remain top of their list.
When you're posting on social media, I understand the education and that type of stuff, but humanizing the staff and the doctor, is there a point where it becomes not professional enough that you have to worry about that on Facebook or whatever?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think the answer is yes, right? Obviously, there's a line where you don't want to be cringy, right? You don't want it to be like, ooh, did they really say that? I see, of course, I stalk everybody as well on Instagram and on TikTok and socials. And there's a provider who does whatever is trending, right? So it's like whatever the almost semi-inappropriate things are, but it's kind of funny, it's like gangster stuff and whatever, and it's silly, but shows the personality. I don't know if that really builds trust, though. Are you really going to get patients from that? I think when you're looking at patients who are researching pathology or a pain point or another option, it's probably better to keep it a lot more professional, but still show who you are, right? I love seeing and meeting the staff. I think it's great when I see on Facebook, oh, it was Mary's birthday, and you'll occasionally get, you'll see people, celebrating with cake and whatever. But you can't just have that, right? That's like when I used to work in an office and we would just post on Memorial Day, Happy Veterans Day, Happy Valentine's Day, and it's like, what does that really do? Those, half the holidays now are made up for Hallmark reasons, so it doesn't even matter. Happy Enchilada Day, it doesn't matter. It's really being specific and focused, but I would say that yes, just be professional. Have fun still. Be professional. You can do both. I do it all day.
Yeah.
Dr. Majors, would you be willing to expound on a point you made at a conference earlier on building the brand? What I recall was, for people that, what I heard was, for people that aren't interested in doing that you already have a brand, and that people are going to Google you, and that if you don't create your brand and control that narrative, people are going to find something about you because you're on the web. People are going to find out. Is that the right point? Something to that point?
So what Tom's asking right there is about, I feel cringy, or I don't want to put myself out there. I don't want to put my practice out there or put too much out there. The point is that you're already out there. Your brand is already out there, and you are either controlling the narrative or someone else is making the narrative for you. And so if you go and you Google your practice, you Google yourself, there is information out there. And so these are your opportunities now to cultivate the message that you personally want to send to your patients, as well as the message that you want your brand to send to the patient. So whether you like it or not, your brand is out there now. Just take control of it.
In regards to the physician liaison, a couple of questions. One, when you're looking for a physician liaison, what do you look for when you're interviewing them? Are you looking for
I'll take that. The first one, usually not device reps. The liaisons don't make what device reps make, so I would say no, they're not device reps. But a number of our liaisons were people that were in the community that knew what we did and want to be a part of what we do. One of the important things, at least in the fibroid space, is patients want to be seen and heard, and there's a lot of, the people that I want to interact with need to look like me. And so we make a concerted effort, our liaisons, reflect our patients. And so when they speak, I think it's really important. I mean, obviously, I'm like the least melanated person in the room typically, but that's okay because we are sensitive to that. And so usually there are people that want to be part of this mission that we're serving. Maybe they had fibroids, maybe they already had myomectomy, maybe hysterectomy. It's usually something along there. They're very energetic and they like what we do and they want to be a part of it. As far as the second part, they're actually on our payroll. So yes, they're on our insurance. We have insurance liability for when they're driving around, but they're not independent contractors. They're our employees.
And for me, mine was actually a nurse that worked for me part-time, and she wanted to come on full-time, but I didn't have the space for it. I just didn't need it. And so I said, well, how motivated are you to make this practice work and expand it so that way we would need you full-time as a nurse, and would you want to be a marketer? And so I actually spoke with Dr. Gettle over here. He has a wonderful physician liaison with a lot of experience. And I connected my nurse with her, and she went through it and told her how she structured her day and everything like that. So that way there was structure to start off. In the vendor world, there's a lot of bonuses. You bring in this amount, and so she had brought that up with me, and I said, well, the fair market value for a physician liaison is way less than a nurse. So I'm happy to pay you physician liaison money when you're doing marketing, or you can just take nursing money and there's no bonuses. And she said, I'll take nursing money.
Yeah, Dr. Sudi, I'll echo kind of those comments, but we've had a great experience with our physician liaison. She did have a ton of experience. I think it's a big part of it, really critical. So it could be a nurse, could be a former tech. Ours had experience on the East Coast marketing IR for a hybrid IR-DR group. And I think that was a huge part of the formula for success because when she goes into offices now, she's so clinically savvy that she can explain these procedures about as well as we can as physicians. Like she really knows the science and the basics behind it. So I think that's a huge part of it. Very hard to find that person, candidly, but I think it's a really good thing to look for.
Can I add something, sir? I'm not a doctor, but I was a clinical liaison for like 20 years, believe it or not, right? I did boots on the ground. I agree with you. I think the best case scenario is find someone who has the experience. Second is who has the network, right? If you can find a representative who's worked for wound care, internal medicine, someone that is a referral source for you, go for that person. And honestly, personality, passion, and drive. That's all they have to have, because you can teach them all the clinical things. You can teach them the basics of your clinic and the outcomes and what happens. But it's hard to teach personality. It's hard to get people to smile. It's hard to talk to strangers. And you have to be able to be aware of the situation, right? You can't just go in every office and be a bulldog. You have to have you have to look at the situation and go, wow, they're really busy. Maybe it's not a good day. So that would be my advice to you.
Kind of a question for Rachel that goes across the board for anybody who's been doing a lot of this. The social media, maybe a good or bad problem is there's so many avenues out there. LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, et cetera, et cetera. And I feel like different times, so there's people I feel like that a year or two ago were Twitter stars, and now it's X, and people aren't on it as much, and now their following's kind of gone. So do you have any advice on that? And then is there any maybe good tools to integrate across multiple? Because 30 minutes a week for one post or a couple posts on one avenue is one thing, but doing it, changing the formatting, changing the length for every social media.
Yeah. I know there are some AI tools out there that you can use, and they will structure each post for the audience, right? So LinkedIn is a business platform. I don't think LinkedIn is usually used for patients going out and trying to find education and find information. That's more a network for business. Facebook and Instagram and even TikTok, those are probably the top places where the everyday person has at least one or two of those on their phone and they're using. So that would be my suggestion. I'm sorry, I don't know the names of the tools for AI. I can let you know though if I figure it out, but
Sendable is one.
Sendable?
Sendable, there's a few, I think, that can compile and like post out on different platforms, but there's a lot.
So like if you're not, Rachel, if you don't usually have people use that, you were talking about getting content on things, what do you usually have people do, or you recommend that they do, make different content for each type, or?
no, because you can use the same piece, right, and make you can use it on 5 or 6 different platforms. I think if you have a dedicated person in your office, obviously I don't expect the doctors to do all this, right? I think if you could have someone in your office, there's all these young kids in here who know how to use social media and know how to use all the tools, get them to create those posts for you. And you can change little things. You could have the call to action to be different on each platform. Or maybe one week on Instagram, we're going to do prostates, and then the next week, and then the same week on Facebook, we're going to do uterine fibroid, something like that.
I'd just like to add to that. I think as you, the physician, what you should be focusing on is posting just once a week on LinkedIn. And you should want every one of your physicians in your practice doing that. And that's, like Rachel said, that's not to patients, that's to other doctors. There are so many physicians that contact me and say, hey, I saw that post on LinkedIn. Are you guys really doing plantar fasciitis embolization? So that's who you're targeting on that, and that takes once a week. It's really easy. And I actually just hosted a 2-day course at my OBL just this week on personal branding for surgeons. And like Rachel was saying, there's one that I use is called repurpose.io. It will take one post and it'll automatically post it to whatever platform you want. And so again, that can be this repeatable thing. Somebody asked earlier about, well, I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over, and that's okay. You want that consistent message to be put out there over and over. People have to see something almost 7 times before they're going to buy from you or trust you. So those are all good advice right there.
And I would add, don't forget about YouTube. It's the second most commonly used search engine to Google, and having videos on YouTube is really helpful.
And a pro tip on your YouTube page, which this was a happy accident. So I have mid-levels that do a lot of my clinic, but I still wanted to somehow maintain a connection with the patient, even if I couldn't physically be there. So I recorded and had a professional videographer come in and recorded all of the consults that I do for PAE, GAE, UFE, whatever. And they're about 20-minute videos. And so before they meet with the mid-level, the patient has to watch that video and then click the button that they watched it in its entirety. With the way YouTube pushes you up in a search, it's about how much engagement you get. So the longer someone watches your videos, they look at you as more important than someone else. So if you have a 20-minute video and hundreds of people a year are watching these videos start to finish, or maybe they're doing 2 procedures and they're watching 40 minutes of video, then you're going to be bumped up. And so we've actually started seeing an influx of patients who are just finding us on YouTube. Because when they put in PAE, we're at the top because my PAE consult video is 22 minutes or whatever it is. And I've had so many people watch it over the last several years that you're now on the top. So if you have a requirement for video watching among patients for everything that's educational, for any consultation that they do, you'll be pushed up even further and you'll get those self-referred YouTube patients as well. And that helps you out with AI as well, because then, Claude is going to identify you via YouTube as the expert in that procedure in the region that you're in.
So my question is actually what you just touched on. AI is becoming much more involved in search, and people are going to Claude or ChatGPT.
Yep.
What are you doing differently to appear in those AI results?
So, believe it or not, Connor is the guy on that, and pretty much his talk, and I'm gonna let you speak. Don't worry. Yeah, but his talk on just the website, you could really just remove website from that, and make it AI. So go for it, Connor.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of changes, obviously, with AI, and there's a whole bunch of things that they're looking at and gravitating towards. And simple things like the FAQs, answering questions that patients are asking. Like when you type in a question into Google and you see, the people also ask, it gives you like 10 other questions there. Go in and look at what those are and see if you have answers to those. I think the comparison charts, those graphs that compare, GAE versus surgical alternatives, like those, AI, eats those up and can scan that and read those. As long as it's not a picture. I've seen it where you make the chart and then it's just an actual image with no alt text or anything on the site. It has to be, coded into the site, but those comparison charts are great. And then, I think those would be some of the main things. But, and then I was talking about Google Business Profile setup, but Bing ties into ChatGPT directly. So Bing, which is kind of like, a lot more irrelevant in the past compared to Google. Bing's now relevant for chat, so make sure you're tidied up on Bing as well. So, and Reddit, Reddit's great. Just getting good content out there, is and always will be the answer.
One caution about AI that I would say is that organic content is really, really important, and we're going to actually talk about more of that on Saturday, but I would avoid AI-created content.
Yes.
It's got to come from you. You got to do it organically. Sometimes you can, try to use AI as kind of a cheat. I would caution you against that your content needs to come from you. It's got to be organic and not AI-driven.
Yeah, if you have AI-created content, Google will not identify that as something to help with your SEO. It won't boost you, and then AI won't use it either. So it's got to be fresh.
Right. You'll be penalized.
Yes. Yes.
What are some effective ways to manage like the inevitable negative review that you might get?
Sue them. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. That's the wrong thing.
I think it's best to just take the conversation offline, say, hey, I'm sorry you had this experience if you recognize the patient, and please contact our office and leave, someone, maybe name of a person they can reach out to, phone number, email. Just make it very clear in that response to the negative review that, hey, we see you, we want to make this right, please contact us. So it takes the conversation offline is kind of the most important thing. I've seen it where, it's an incorrect 1-star review. It's not someone that or have ever been with, and that's probably the most frustrating because there's nothing you did to deserve it. There's nothing you can even respond except for, hey, we don't know who you are. I don't think you're a patient here. You can report those reviews to Google. Kind of good luck with that, I think, a little bit. You're probably going to go nowhere. No one's seeing that report usually. So I think the best thing is just responding, have a good professional response, and then take it offline.
We've had them removed. Yeah, we've reported them to Google, and it's actually worked.
Yeah, if they are fake, you got a much better chance.
That they will, yeah. So,
yeah.
So with that,
We've seen people get attacked too with just negative 1 stars that are all fake, and you get 10 within 5 minutes or something. Google will take that. Yeah, Google will take those off usually. So.
Yeah.
I think it's also, that's why it's important to constantly get positive reviews, right? People in general, we're real quick to leave a negative review. If you have a bad experience, I'm getting on it right now and I'm doing it. Instead of, that was so great, I'm gonna do that, right? So I worked with a client who had a 1-star really bad review that just kept staying at the top. And it was like 2 months old. Well, no, they weren't asking anyone else for a review, so it just stayed at the top for 2 months. So I'm like, get more reviews, push it down, get that out of sight, so when they open it, it's not the first blaring thing that they see, if you're not able to get it removed.
I think another way of dealing with it is that what we've done is that we've actually asked for reviews internally before the patients leave, and then we review those internally during our huddles in the morning. So when that happens, it mitigates any bad review that occurs, and we can deal with those things front forward. And then we still get the 5-star reviews because they've already written it on there. Then they have the QR code that's there with that thing. If we do have a negative review that's on Google, I will personally call the patient and ask them to review what happened during that situation. And I mean, large majority of the time, I don't think anybody hasn't taken it down. Yeah.
All right, guys, we finished 49 seconds early, so go enjoy the conference. Thank you so much. This is awesome.